welcome to another episode of Alumni Updates. I'm Jason Holcomb, and right now I'm joined by one of the more prolific recent graduates of Dublin High School, Troy Ashe, or Troy Lamar as he's known in Facebook land. That's what made it so hard when I first saw, I was trying to connect the picture and the name, and I'm like, and I even had our media specialist, I'm like, what's up with this name? And she's like, Troy Ashe. I'm like, that's it. I said, I had to figure it out. So it's not a pseudonym. It's just part of your name, not all of your name. But welcome to the show. And man, how's everything going?
Thank you for having me first. Everything's going great. I'm currently in school. I'm actually on a break from lab right now. So after this, I'll go to lab. But everything's going well. Just pretty much just school, home, and work right now.
Now, when we're talking about school and work, you know, you're not just doing the regular school and work. Go ahead and let people know what it is that you're majoring in and what you're going to be doing full time here in the next little while.
All right. So right now, I'm actually in my second semester of my P1 year at Mercer University's College of Pharmacy. So I am getting my doctorate in pharmacy right now. My main goal is to open my own pharmacy. As I have a few ways of getting there, but that's my main goal. So eventually you could see a pharmacy from me somewhere, possibly even in Dublin. So, but yeah.
We would not turn you away. You know, I always get tickled. I've had some friends that have opened up pharmacies here in town and friends that are pharmacists. And the one thing that I appreciate is people, I don't think, recognize what goes into your job, because, you know, the false assumption is that you're running around with one of those weird little metal knives and you just sliding pills off a tray into a pill bottle and pushing it out the door. But,
right.
You know, when you start talking about pharmacology and actual science and actually understanding, you know, I know there have been several times where some of my pharmacist friends have potentially saved somebody because they saw the medicines that were about to go out and they saw, hey, this stuff, these things don't go well together, because, you know, in today's world, you have all these specialist doctors. And so this doctor's giving you this pill for this, and this doctor's giving you this pill for this. Well, they might not jihad. And so I really appreciate the fact that you're not somebody that's just trying to fill a pill bottle. You're actually understanding the science, and talk about what goes into that kind of knowledge base. What's some of the core study, and so what's some of the things that you've had to do to be able to be at that place now?
Yes. So yeah, definitely. I agree with you in terms of the in-depthness of the role. It's definitely not just counting pills at CVS. But yeah, so I do appreciate that, because a lot of people do have that misconception that is all pharmacists do. However, that's the bare minimum. But yeah, background. So I personally, I didn't like biology per se. But I took the chemistry route in undergrad. I graduated from Morehouse College in 2018. And so I have more so a background in chemistry. And so it's helping more, I'm seeing this year for sure, as we are diving into the pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, medicinal chemistry, and all of that. And so, excuse me. And so what the pharmacodynamics, that's just basically how a drug affects the body. The pharmacokinetics, that's just as simple as how the body affects the drug. And then you have, of course, your medicinal chemistry dealing with enzyme rings, enzymes, different ligands. I know this all probably sounds foreign to some people.
Hey, man, it's all good. But the thing I want to emphasize to people is you have to know so much more, and it's not just about throwing on a lab coat and, you know, saying, which bottle am I going to fill up today? And, you know, before we get too deep into your current career path, I want to take us back a ways. obviously being a product of Dublin City Schools, class of 2014, it's crazy to think that's going on 7 years. You know, I was telling someone the other day, I was trying to think about the fact that it's been 21 years since I graduated. So, but in your case, going back to your time in school, when was the first time that you started looking at pharmacy or science, or when did some of those light bulbs, and who are some of those people that helped you turn on those light bulbs? And this could be at any time. It doesn't have to necessarily be high school. You know, for some kids, you know, I looked in the yearbook. You said back in 2014, I'm going to be a pharmacist. You made it clear in the yearbook. Some people like me, I had no clue what I wanted to do. But tell me some of those impactful moments and those impactful people that helped steer you in the direction that you're currently on.
Yes. So I think I've pretty much, for some reason, I've always science and math. Those have always pretty much been my two strong suits. Coming up in school, I think in the beginning I probably wanted to be like a heart surgeon or something. And so as I got older, you know, I was like, okay, well, I'm not trying to be in school forever. So you know, I was like, okay, well, what's something that I can, you know, accomplish and still be able to not be in school forever, live life and everything like that. Not saying you can't do that being a heart surgeon, but to me, I just became a little bit more realistic. And so I do have my cousin, actually, Dr. Nelson Maynor. He's a clinical
Yes,
pharmacist.
I
Yeah,
know Dr. Maynor.
yeah, he's a he was definitely a stepping stone for me in terms of finding the path of pharmacy. And so as I matriculate throughout the program now, I do actually hope to maybe one day shadow him or intern at the VA down there. But back to high school, well, not even high school. So I don't really remember my science teachers from elementary, but I do remember I had Miss Laura Lord back in 6th grade. Miss Allen, Robin Allen, she was my
Oh,
seventh
yes.
grade. And then we had Miss Carr. She's no longer with the system now, but she was my 8th grade teacher. And then moving into high school, I definitely had Coach Pollock. I had Coach Pollock from my 9th and 10th grade year. So he definitely played a big role because he was always engaging the sciences and just life in general, and was able to, we were able to just grasp it better, and it made it a lot of fun. So his class was definitely a fun or good remembrance from high school. And just other teachers, there was Miss Jessica Horn. She was my math teacher for a few years. Miss Monique Blue, God rest her soul.
Oh,
She was
yes.
also a very huge impact. She probably helped me with all of my scholarship essays and just any speeches or anything that I was doing.
She wasn't afraid to tell you if it was wrong too, right?
Yeah, nah, not at all. So and I appreciated that. And so there's just so many more. Erica Wade or Johnson now. She's always been a huge impact in the life. We're pretty close. And then also Mrs. Claxton, people like Mrs. Claxton, Mrs. Kennedy. They're no longer with the system, but
Right.
it's a multitude. Mrs. Ross over at was at Dublin Middle School, or I think Dr. Chapel now.
Yes,
So yeah,
Dr. Chappell.
it's just a lot of, it's a multitude of people that have paved the way and just kind of been a part of my village, so to speak. And that's the interesting thing about it as well. I'm gonna need all of those aspects as a collective to help me be successful, well, in life in general, because it wasn't always about the studies. You know, a lot of them were able to give me gems and you know, just good golden knowledge and whatnot, in terms of life, school, and just anything. So that's the great thing about the career path that I have chosen, because I'm definitely going to have to deal with people. So the people skills and the social skills and the knowledge that they've poured into me all of that, I'm able to use all of that basically. So
Yeah, it's funny you talk about people skills because based on everything that I saw, and I got to do this to you real quick. I see a lot of people skills. Um, let's see if it'll cooperate. Hang on, it's coming. Let's see if it's gonna cooperate. Come on, little phone. Do right. If it don't, then we're just here it comes. There we go. There he is. All right. And what's really funny is people skills were not something that you were lacking in based on everything that I'm looking around in this yearbook. Um, Particularly the fact, I don't know if you see who was the homecoming queen that year, if you don't mind me asking.
That's actually LaShayla Pittman, or Officer Pittman now. She's a deputy with the Dublin Police Department now, actually.
But I was asking about the king.
The
Who's the
king. Oh, I'm
king?
sorry. The king. That would be me.
Yes. Yeah. And so everything that I'm looking around, we all, when we look at these pictures, you can't help it because we all look different. I mean, you got like a little modified box going on right there, which, that's starting to come back. Some people are trying to throw that kid and play look back around, which that might actually be a little before your time. But my point is, it doesn't look like you are a wallflower. And so talk about, for instance, in high school, the thing that I always emphasize to people having, I went to Dublin myself, graduated in 98. And the thing that I always try to emphasize to people about Dublin High School is, I said, to me, it just feels like a family. And it doesn't mean that we're always getting along, because, families don't always get along, but we always love each other. And there's a lot of mutual respect. And for me, those relationships that I forged, I still carry with me today. So you talked about people skills, talk about those relationships and people skills that you forged with your classmates through the years, and how those have affected you as you went through Morehouse and Mercer and are preparing to try to venture out into the working world.
Right. So definitely a big part. Well, as you can see, I was student council president, actually. I was part of the Beta Club, the band, tennis team, just different sorts. But yeah, relationships are a big thing for me. Whether acquaintances, friendships, family, classmates, whatever, what have you, they are very important. So I do take those serious. I don't know if I necessarily knew that in high school, but it kind of shows now, being that I do still have pretty much a relationship or some type form of contact with, the entire class. We do have a group that we kind of, comment in here and there. And then I'm friends with a lot of them on Facebook. Although we don't communicate, as often, we all have lives and stuff. But, when we do see each other, it's almost like we never missed a beat. So, so I definitely appreciate and have a respect for the relationships that I did form in high school and beyond. And they are, excuse me. And so in terms of like matriculating and going on through the world now, there's still a big help, because now we're all getting into our careers and whatnot. So they may can call on me, and I can call on them, and then especially with a lot of us actually coming back to Dublin, that's also a big thing, because we pretty much all have the same goal, just wanting to give back to the community, and just make a good living for the city and stuff. So.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have a bunch of very proud people hearing that, because, that's always been one of the things that I've tried to talk to people about, the ability to try to pay it forward. Right. Getting to work for the school system in the way that I do, I love my job because I get to highlight people like you in hopes of inspiring the next you, You know, my
Right.
hope is that there's some kid in 5th grade who says, man, you know, Mr. Ashe looks like me, and he lived near where I lived, and why can't I be a pharmacist, or why can't I be a doctor? And so that's what I'm constantly trying to do, is to put those things in front of people. Well, who are those people for you? Not teachers, you know, not friends, but who are some of those? You know, you mentioned Dr. Maynard earlier, but who are some of those people in your life that you said you looked up to and said, man, I want to be like this person when I grow up?
So definitely, well, I don't think I can necessarily say one in particular person, but definitely my parents for sure. You know, they've always taught us to be whatever we put our mind to, you know, stick with it. You can always do anything, especially by keeping God first. And then of course having faith. So yeah, definitely my parents, my grandparents as well. Just seeing how they've all overcame adversity, especially coming in the times that they have, that they did come through. And no, everybody didn't get, you know, a degree in chemistry or, you know, but just being able to see them still, you know, navigate through life and actually still doing pretty well as of today. And so that definitely helps in where I am today. And so I definitely have to give that pretty much to any of my family members that are older than me, but specifically probably my mom and dad. My great grandmother, she's still alive, and so
Wow.
yeah, she's actually 87. I usually know these things, but I think she's
Hey,
like
you're
80.
good, man. That, I mean, when you start, you could just say in her up, you know, in her late
Yeah,
80s, and
yeah,
everybody's good. You know, my granddad lived to be 98, and I remember one time somebody was talking to him about, you know, because you start getting forgetful when you get older. I mean, I do
right,
too, and I'm only 40. I'm not even halfway there. And my granddad was like, well, you know, if you had to keep inside of your head all that's flown through mine, you might let a little slip out once in a while too.
right,
And but you know, to me, I think that's a blessing to have that support system. And I know that's had to have played a major factor in your success through college, because you know a lot of people assume when you go off to school that you're all by yourself. Well, no,
right.
that's when you really realize how desperately you do need that support system. And talk about, you know, was there any moment in college where you're like, man, I'm so thankful I got my mom and dad and my family and people support me? Was there any epiphany that happened, whether it was at Morehouse or at Mercer or wherever, where you said, man, I'm so grateful I have them?
Right. But yeah, probably every other week. No, but definitely, definitely at Morehouse. Even if it was, you know, my grandmother texting saying, "Hey, I sent you some money," you know, that stuff like that that will stay with me forever. Um, Aunts and uncles and everything. But in particular, there was an instance, probably my sophomore year. We were a little short on funds to actually pay for the semester, or for the year rather. And so, of course, we have to have the balance paid in order to to start classes, or whatever. So that was definitely a time where we were all able to come together, or they were all able to come together rather, and they actually got my balance paid off and everything,
Wow.
within like a week or so. And so that was a time definitely where my faith was being tested. My mom was a big, a huge part of that. You know, where she always encourages us to just stay the course, remain faithful, and of course, you know, speak things into existence and stuff. So that the beginning of my sophomore year was probably the biggest, or the most monumental thing that I can remember.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, and that time in your college life, I know from my own personal experiences that sophomore year is where I had quite a few friends who decided, nah, I don't know if I want to keep doing this college thing, or this is too hard, or I want to do something different. So the temptation to not see yourself through to completion is there. And to me, that sophomore year, probably more than anything, because once you get into junior and senior year, you're like, well, I'm on the downhill slope. I'm in my major. I'm really focused on these courses. I know my professors and I'm building relationships with them. But that sophomore year, I just remember seeing so many people, because it's like, man, I got to take another English. Man, why do I have to take a history? I'm going into pharmacy. What do I need to know about U.S. history right now? But and you don't realize how some of that you do need. But
right, yeah.
It's so nice to know that your family was willing to make that sacrifice in that moment. And I know full well, just in our little bit of chatting, that when the opportunity arises for you to return that favor in kind, you're going to be doing it probably doubly over in some form or fashion.
Yeah, most definitely. So yeah, I'll carry that on with me forever. But yeah.
Now, let's shift gears for a second, because we've talked a little bit about high school and about the people who've touched your lives. Obviously, you're getting into a field that's getting a lot of attention right now, particularly from the standpoint of not just the COVID-19 disease, but now we're into the vaccination period. And I'm sure, because you're a pharmacy nerd, you're probably, and I say that in with all love and respect,
Yeah.
but these vaccines, from what you've read, what does it tell you about their safety, their efficacy, and about the need for us to all be vaccinated to hopefully try to get back to normal again?
Right. So, well, we haven't really we've touched a little bit on it. Especially in my class, we're actually being trained now to become certified into giving immunization. So I'll actually be able to give immunizations in a few weeks.
Well, I might be hitting you up. I might be Facebook messaging. Can you come give Jason a shot?
And so, and that's kind of monumental, being that it is during the pandemic. So the COVID vaccines will probably be what I'll, or those that, or looking back, I'll be able to say, I was coming through school during the pandemic, for the coronavirus, and so, but we haven't, or what I do know, I guess, about the vaccine. But of course, they're still testing it out, or still going through all of the kinks and loops and whatnot. But it definitely, so vaccinations are definitely, I guess you say, pivotal or definitely needed, because that eventually that's what's gonna. I feel like that'll be the only downside to this. A lot of people are hoping that or a lot of the scientists and the researchers, they're hoping that it'll just kind of be like, the vaccine would just be kind of like the annual flu vaccine that you get, because and because like the flu, there are different strands that are coming about now. But yeah, definitely. I encourage anyone to get the vaccine, even if not now, at some point in the future, because that'll eventually protect us all. Even if we, and I don't knock anybody that does not get the vaccine, because eventually they'll be protected by herd immunity. And herd immunity, that's just basically me, you, and Sam over here, we get vaccines. But the fourth person, he's protected because we all have vaccines. So, or we were all vaccinated. So, but yeah, I think it'll all work out eventually, though.
Well, I'm really excited, because I'm looking forward to being able, obviously some of these new methods that we're using to communicate, like what you and I are using right now, aren't going away. And they're very helpful in circumstances where you're obviously somewhere different than I am. So we can still carry this conversation and do this interview. But I'm looking forward to the chance where we could have you come to the campus and be able to talk to the kids in some of these science and math classes. And, Miss Johnson's class, for instance, and be able to tell these kids in these science classes, hey, look, you know, I was sitting in this room or that room, and I was learning all these things. You know, I was learning about valence electrons, and I was, you know, learning about these different compositions and all. But as we prepare to wrap things up, I couldn't help but notice you got some old school on the wall back there behind you. Now, is that really yours, or did one of your family members let you borrow that for the bachelor pad? Because tell all the folks at home what's hanging on your wall right there.
So the one up top, that's Tony Braxton. That was definitely mine. And then the second one is Anita Baker. And then the third one, well, I have a fourth one actually. You can't see that one. I have a Luther Vandross, and then I have a Belle Biv DeVoe.
Oh Lord, I thought that's what that was, but I couldn't read it. Belle Biv DeVoe. That's like from just before my time. Like that's when I was a younger child, and then Anita Baker, obviously. Man, look at you now.
They're all definitely way before my time. But I'm a big music head, or well, you know, I was in the band and stuff, so I did the trombone and the tuba. But music is like an outlet for me. So, and I'm very hip to, as you can see.
Good music's good music. That's what I try to explain. You know, it's funny because my kids, for the most part, are very eclectic. My oldest son is more into like John Mayer type stuff, but then my 13-year-old, any kind of hip hop beat, and so they clash constantly. And I said, y'all, you got to realize tastes are different. I said, and I really blew my oldest son's head because when an Outkast song popped up on a Nissan commercial, and I think it was Hey Ya, and he started teasing my 13-year-old, and I'm like, you know, I own that album. and he's like, he looked at me like, what? And I said, son, you got to realize, I listened to all of it. I mean, I listened to rap, rock. I mean, again, I remember the first time, I remember where I was when I heard MC Hammer for the first time. And this was back in the 80s. And Vanilla Ice and a lot of other acts that aren't meant for school programming. But then I listened to heavy metal and Motley Crue, and you know, there at one point there was some country stuff that to me, music is music. I mean,
definitely.
Now, do you still play music at all, or you just listen to music?
Nah, definitely don't. I don't play it all. But I definitely do listen to it. And I'd agree with what you said. It's a variety. I think the variety is what makes it even better. You know, because I'll study to some Ella Fitzgerald or some Louis Armstrong or something like that. You know, so I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, and to me, I think that's great when you talked about having been in band. And to me, I think that when you start pursuing things and you start seeing, like in band, for instance, band kind of teaches you why music should sound good and why stuff is just noise. And I mean, there's plenty of both. And, but, you know, like I try to explain to people all the time, the music when our grandparents and great grandparents were growing up was jazz. And everybody said that's the devil's music. Then the next generation comes around and you've got rockabilly. That's the devil's music. You know, Elvis, way he was swaying his hips, and and like, Sam Cooke, people, he's so divisive and blah, blah, blah. And you just keep going through each generation, and every time something comes out, the old generation looks at the new generation. It's like, man, y'all are crazy, disrespectful. You don't know what sounds good. But then all my kids and my wife are bouncing to the weekend. So, it is what it is, man. It's just, but as we wrap up, what would you tell, if for any student, because obviously there's going to be a lot of family and friends that watch this, but this is really geared toward our students. What would you tell those kids that maybe have an interest in science, but are afraid of it being, quote, hard, or, you looking at your career path and saying, well, man, you know, do I want to be in school for 6 or 8 years? You know, what would you tell them as encouragement so that maybe one day there's the next Troy Ashe is sitting here with a much older and probably less haired version of me? What would you tell them?
Definitely, if you're thinking that's what you want to do, definitely go for it. I encourage you to go for it. It is going to be hard. I won't sugarcoat. It's going to be hard. There have been plenty of times. There are times now where I'm still, you know, okay, is this, you know, like, but as you get older, you learn to, you know, just face things head on. So yeah, definitely, I'd encourage them all the way. And of course, I'd also encourage them to find people that help you along the way. You're not gonna be able to do it alone. You're definitely gonna need a support system, as I've talked about. You're definitely gonna need people that are gonna be able to help mold you and just be able to take you along the way. But hands down, I definitely encourage you to do it because, of course, being a person of color myself, it helps for all of us to be in these positions, and we need more people in these positions. So I wouldn't steer them away. I definitely encourage them and let them know that they can't do it. Which that brings about. So I have like a newly nonprofit that I kind of started. I don't know if you
In your
said
free
that.
time?
Yeah, yeah. I've had the idea for a minute, but I kind of got some things rolling this past year, but yeah, and so the main purpose, so it's TRAP, it's TRAAP. I like to use words and like I like to play on words and stuff like that. So, but it's true representation of African American people, and so I just want to do a multitude of things with it. Of course, being able, and the main goal, however, is to basically just control and change the narrative that people may have. Of course, people of color and African Americans, and so well, like a few weeks ago, I was able to disperse the funds for the scholarship that I did. So
Wow.
there's a Trap Scholars Scholarship, but like that'll come about in the near future where I'll do like an interview and everything with the recipient. But I was just so grateful to be able to do that. COVID has kind of messed up some things as well because I want to be
Yeah,
able.
just a smidge. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, I can't necessarily come out to the school like you said, speak to the classes and whatnot. But you know, between education services, service opportunities, and just being able to give back to the community is basically how I hope to change the narrative. So, but yeah,
That's fantastic. Well, Troy, I want to tell you how much I've enjoyed getting to talk with you today, and you've inspired me and pumped me up. Now, I'm not going into pharmacy. You didn't pump me up that good, but as far as continuing to inspire me in the things that I do, and hopefully challenging the children in our school system that you know, greatness is something that any of them are able to achieve. It's been a real pleasure getting to talk with you today.
Thank you. Same as here. It's been an excellent pleasure.